So again, sorry for the uh, network issue. There is huge network issue we are facing. I am facing here actually. So I think it's connected again. Okay, so it's a streaming. So today we will study about wines of Alsace. Wines of Alsace is the we are going to study about the last wine producing region in France. Then we will move to Italy. So if you can see the wines of Alsace map, the wines of Alsace map, you can see the Strasbourg, you can see the Colmar, some some districts you can see here. So we'll see one by one. The first of all, the Alsace region is northernmost region in France. It's the northernmost. It is a border. It's the northernmost region in the France. It's very famous for good still wines, and this is Alsace region located in the Rhine River Valley. So the river is very long, and it is it's not only flows in Alsace, but still the Alsace is covers Alsace region, and the Alsace region is located in the valley of Rhine River. And Alsace is very good region for white wine. It's a white wine because the Alsace is the border of Germany. So what happened? The lot of Germany influence to the Alsace. So I hope if you remember, we discussed about the cold regions and hot regions, and we discussed this. If you take example, Germany is one of the very coldest region. So what happens? The coldest regions mostly produce white wines because they mostly produce the mostly cultivates white grapes because there is no sunlight, so it's very difficult for them to produce red grapes. Even if they produce red grapes, they need a strong good sunlight for the tannins, for the tannin growth. When you talk about hot regions like Australia, you can see a lot of sunlight is there, so it produces a lot of good red wines. Shiraz comes from Australia. They are producing very good red wines because the mostly the basic concept we have to understand. The hot regions mostly produce red grape varieties, and they're producing mostly red wines. So if you talk about cold regions like Canada, cold regions like Germany, they mostly produce white grape varieties. They mostly cultivate white grape varieties, and they producing white wines. So what happened? Alsace is next to German. Okay, so what happens? The Germany is a cold. Alsace is also a little very cold. So it's also started producing white grape varieties than the red grape varieties. So a lot of Germanic influence there. So it is primarily it's a white wine region. Alsace is a white wine region. We have seen every region. We have seen what is the uniqueness. What is the uniqueness of each region we are studying about. For example, if we take Bordeaux, Bordeaux is a red wine region because of hot. If we talk about Burgundy, Burgundy is the equal quantity of red wine and equal quantity of white wine. If we talk about Rhone Valley, Rhone Valley is again a northern Rhone, southern Rhone. We have a major domination of red grapes, Syrah and Grenache. So when we talk about all these things, when it's Alsace, Alsace is primarily it's a white wine region because it produces a lot of white grapes than the red grapes because of the climate and weather condition, and of course Germanic influence. Annual that they have a 16,000 hectares of vineyards. It's very small one. It's not like a big like Bordeaux or Burgundy or Loire Valley. So 16,000 hectares of vineyards they have. Among this 16,000, 15,450 hectares vineyards are AOC appellations. So you all know after 1936, the AOC has been implemented in the France in all the regions where they protect the best quality wines, and the AOC made a huge impact. AOC is made a huge revolution in the wine making process in France, and then they started producing a lot of good quality wines. So if you talk about the wines of Alsace among 16,000 hectares. Out of 16,000 hectares, 15,450 hectares they have AOC vineyards. Okay, and if you talk about wine growers, they have a 5,050 wine growers they have, and 1.2 million hectoliters of wines been produced in Alsace every year. Let me repeat again. Uh, there are around 5,000 wine growers they have. Out of that, they are producing 1.2 million hectoliters of wines per year. Per year, they are producing 1.2 million hectoliters. This is a small brief about Alsace. Okay, um, as you know, this is the primarily it's a white wine region. 91 percentage of the wines are the white wines. 91 percentage. Okay, almost they have it's a full of white wine region. 75 percentage sales on French domestic market, and only 25 percentage they are selling export. So what happened? So 91 percentage is white wine, and 75 percentage of the annual wine production. What happened? They are it's not exported. They are selling in the French domestic market. Only 25 percentage of the Alsace wines being export and mostly in Europe. When you talk about the region is the coldest region, and Alsatian. They will call Alsace wines called Alsatian wines, or it's a way that it's very more full and fragrant and very spicy and of course rich. It's not like light and delicate. Okay, so you need to understand the wine is full of it's a full body. You can say white wines, and a lot of fragrance is there, and it's sometimes the wine gives spiciness, and of course very rich. So what happens when you talk about the history of Alsace during the Second World War? Okay, before Second World War, Alsace was occupied by Germans, the Nazis. Okay, by Hitler, because it's a border of German. So Alsace was occupied, and it was in the control of Germans, Nazis. After the Second World War, after the defeat of Nazis, after the Hitler has been killed, then the France took again the Alsace region. That's why when you compare, when you talk about among all the region of France, Alsace became the last major wine producing region with AOC status. It happened in 1962. So this is the major difference. Why I was telling about Germanic influence. The Germanic influence, because the Alsace was under the control of Germans before the Second World War. So what happened? All the cultural, all the plantations, all the winemaking process, everything like Germans. They followed the Germans' culture and everything. But after the defeat of the Nazis in the Second World War, after the Hitler has been killed, then the France took the place again back to in their custody, and it joined the France again, and the AOC was implemented. But of course, it was implemented in 1962. So Alsace is one of the last major wine producing region which got the AOC appellation in year 1962. When you talk about the soils, Alsace soils such a so unique, and it's so different from other regions. We have seen chalky soil, we have seen limestone, everything we've seen, but Alsace is quite different. They have a mosaic soil, and the lot of soils contains mosaics, and with the layers of granite, sandstone, clay, and etc etc. But the basic soil what they have is mosaic. You can see the Alsace. These are the varieties of soils they have in around 13 terrains. You can see that granite, sandstone, limestone, but all with the layers of mosaic. So all soils are mosaic, but they have different layers of other soils. Maybe the top soils may be different, but the mosaic is the basic soil which they are using to cultivate the planting the grapes and vineyards. This is something we can talk about. We can say something unique from other regions, but still Alsace, one of the good wines comes from Alsace region. When you talk about the grapes, uh, grapes, you can see this grape map. They have a lot of grapes. They have Gestromine, and they have Pinot Gris, they have Riesling, they have Pinot Noir, Sylvaner, Pinot Blanc, Muscat, Chardonnay, Sauvignon. So there are plenty of grapes from Alsace, but we are going to see what are the grape varieties playing a major role in Alsace winemaking, because that's make different. Because of course you have a lot of grapes, but there are they have certain principal grape varieties is there. So this Alsace wine statistics, if you see these, they have the major dominating grape is Riesling. The Riesling, they have a 21.9 percentage of the grape, they have Riesling. You all know, we have studied about this. I have taught you in the class. The Riesling, one of the principal grape variety in Germany. So now you can connect how German have influenced, okay, the Alsace region. So even Alsace, the principal grape variety, the most dominating grape variety is Riesling. Then we have Pinot Blanc, we have Gewürztraminer, we have Pinot Gris, we have Sylvaner, we have Muscat, and we have Pinot Noir. So when you see this, the entire the entire if you take the entire Alsace region, 90 percentage of the grapes of white grapes. So primarily the Alsace is white wine region. How we are saying Bordeaux is 89 percentage of red wine region. Same like here, Alsace is 90 percentage is a white wine region. Yes, of course they're producing some red wines from Pinot Noir, which is 9.9 percentage grapes they have. Pinot Noir grapes they have in Alsace. But if you can see the other grapes, Riesling, Pinot Blanc, Gewürztraminer, and Pinot Gris, Sylvaner, Muscat. So these are all white grapes playing a major role in making wines from Alsace. So in Bordeaux we have seen 2-3 grapes, and Burgundy we have 2 grapes, and Rhone Valley we have few grapes. But if you talk about Alsace a combination of many grapes. So it's a very good example for varietal wine. So varietal wine means the grape is made by the wine is made by single grape variety, that is called varietal wine. So what happens? So varietal wine means if you have a Alsace wine, if they made only from Riesling grape, they are not using any Pinot Blanc. They were not. They didn't use Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris or whatever. So that becomes varietal wine, single varietal. So you have to understand what is varietal, and you need to understand what is single varietal, what is varietal, what is a blend. It's a very simple. If it's a varietal wine, it's made from only one grape variety, particular grape variety of the region. So Alsace producing lot of varietal wines, very good example for varietal wines. Even though they have many grapes like a Riesling, Pinot Blanc, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris, Sylvaner, Muscat, Pinot Noir, they have many grapes, but there are the noble grapes of Alsace. There are 4 noble grapes of Alsace which you need to understand. The basic one, the first one is Riesling, which one of the dominated grapes in Alsace region. So it's the most planted grapes in Alsace. The Alsatian Riesling, the Alsatian Riesling is very dry and is a powerful than German counterparts. So Germany also Riesling is one of the primary grape variety, the most planted grape varieties, but still the soil makes few difference than German and Alsace. So basically the Alsace Riesling is very powerful, very it's a very strong than the German wines. The acidity is very good. It's a fresh acidity and lot of minerals, and it's a very young wine to drink. When you talk about Muscat, Muscat is very sweet grape variety on the nose. Orange flavors, peach and grape. It's a very good fruit aromas. This Muscat, and it's very good dry on the palate. When you drink this, Muscat, it's very good dry, wine on the palate. Two varieties of Muscat they are using. One is Muscat Blanc de Petit Grain, and another is Muscat Autumnal. So there is a two Muscat grapes they are using. One is Muscat Blanc de Petit Grain, and another one is Muscat Autumnal. This is the family of Muscat grape. So we are studying about the noble grapes of Alsace. You can say it's the principal grapes of Alsace, one of the very topmost used in top producing topmost wines of Alsace. So one we have seen Riesling, the another one we have seen Muscat, the third it's a Pinot Gris. So Pinot Gris is one of the good grape variety in Alsace. Once upon a time, it was known as Tokay, the Alsace. What happened? Let me tell you a small story. The Tokay is the region in Hungary. If you talk about Hungary country, Tokaj is the one of the region. So what happened? It was believed that the grape is being taken from Alsace to Hungary to to start the wine process, to start the vineyards, to start the plantation of the grapes, everything. So it was believed the Pinot Gris was taken from Alsace to Hungary, the Tokaji region, where one of the best region producing wines still now. So it was believed that the Pinot Gris being taken from the Alsace region, and they started cultivating in the Tokaj region in Hungary. But later on, and they have a dispute between France and Hungary, and they came for the final conclusion. So what happened? Because the France started using the Pinot Gris as a Tokaj de Alsace. So Tokaj de Alsace means somebody asked why it's called Tokaj de Alsace. They will have the story to tell. You understand? So like that Hungary taken our grape variety. So they have took from us, and they have started cultivating in the Tokaj region. They are producing one of the best wines in the world, and it's all from Alsace it went. So they were started using Tokaj de Alsace. Then later on, the French government, the Hungary government reported in European Union wine categories. And what happened? The European Union tried to solve their dispute between France and Hungary, and finally they made an amendment that the France supposed not to use the word Tokaj de Alsace. Then again, it's been called as a Pinot Gris. So this is one of the interesting fact behind these Tokaj de Alsace. So if somebody asks you what is the Tokaj de Alsace, you should know the small history where Hungary was involved in this name, because of the Tokaji region in the Hungary. It was believed that they have taken the Pinot Gris from Alsace to Hungary. So later on, and European Union have interfered in this matter and in turn, and now the France is not using this name called Tokaj de Alsace. And Pinot Gris also the same variety grape which is used in Italy called Pinot Grigio. So Pinot Grigio is one of the best grape variety which is producing a lot of white wines in Italy, and it's very honey flavor, dried apricots and mushrooms and ginger, and it's a full body than Riesling and Muscat. So Pinot Gris mostly it's a full body white wine, than the Riesling and Muscat. The fourth noble grape of Alsace is Gewürztraminer. So Gewürztraminer is a very full bodied wine, and fat and spicy and very intensive aromatic. It tastes like a lychee, fruit cocktail and rose aromas. So lot of flavors on the palate as well, a lot of flavors on the nose. So Gewürztraminer, little strong flavored wine, if you can say. So these are the four major grape varieties which are used in the making of Alsace wines. So when you talk about Alsace wine regions, okay, you can see this in the picture. This is little slopes, not high slope, but little slopes are there. Uh, so basically, they are dividing into two sub-region. Alsace been divided into two. One is Basraim and Hothraim. So Bahrain means it's divided by the river exactly. So Bahrain is the northern sector of Alsace. Hothraim is the southern sector of Alsace. Very simple. Northern Alsace, southern Alsace. So Bahrain, the northern sector Alsace, the regional capital is Strasbourg. We have seen the map in the first slide. The Strasbourg we have seen. And if you talk about Hothreim, is home for many premium vineyards. So a lot of best wines comes from southern part of Alsace, that is Hothreim, and the regional capital is Colmar. So these are the sub regions of Alsace, and I'll repeat again. There are two sub regions. One is Borheim and another is Hothreim. And Borheim is north sector of Alsace. The regional capital is Salzburg, and when you talk about the southern part of sector is they are producing a lot of good premium quality wines comes from the southern part of Alsace. The regional capital is Colmar. So Alsatian AOC appellations. So what are the best AOC wines comes from um, you know from Alsace? So we are going to uh, see about what are the best wines. Alsace wines comes from Alsace regions. So basically they have a three major appellations. I'm telling you, basically they have a three major appellations. One is Alsace AOC. The second one is Alsace Grand Cru AOC. The third one is Cremendy Alsace AOC. I am repeating again, please note it down, it's very very important. One is Alsace AOC. The second one is Alsace Grand Cru AOC. The third one is Cremendy Alsace AOC. So these are the three main wine appellations comes from Alsace. These are the three primary wines labeling, been produced from the Alsace region. So what is Alsace AOC? We'll see one by one. So Alsace AOC is produced. It was producing since 1962. Yes, the 1962 the year the AOC was implemented in Alsace. So from that year onwards, Alsace AOC wine has been produced. 78% of the production is Alsace AOC. Imagine 78% of the total Alsace region wines is Alsace AOC wines. They are producing white varietal wines. I told you what is white varietal. White varietal means single grape wines. Riesling, Pinot Gris, Gewürztraminer, Muscat. So these are the single varietal white wines being produced. And red and rosé wines also they are making by the blend of Pinot Noir. So red and rose being made from the Pinot Noir, and it blends. If it is a blend, it will label as a gentle or some Edelswicker. So these are the Alsace labeling term you can see in Alsace AOC. So Alsace AOC is basically this is the major wine labeling term which comes from Alsace. 78% of the wines of the total production of wines in Alsace is Alsace AOC. Most of the wines are white varietal wines. I told you what is white varietal wine. It's a single grape wines made from the Alsace region, and of course they are producing red and rose also from Pinot Noir. When we talk about Alsace Grand Cru AOC, we have studied about Grand Cru wine from the Burgundy region. I hope you remember. So Grand Cru wines are the most premium wine, the top most quality wine. Grand Cru means a great growth. Cru means growth. So it is a Grand Cru means a great growth. The Burgundy, one of the best example for Grand Cru wines. They have a lot of Grand Cru wines comes from Burgundy, which we have studied already. Same Alsace also have some Grand Cru wines, but not much, not like a Burgundy, but still they have some good Grand Cru AOC wines they have. They are producing since 1975, and 4% production of total wine production of Alsace. So Grand Cru wines is only 4 production of the wines being produced every year among all the wines of Alsace. They have 51 vineyards. The 51 vineyards only 8% of the total surface area. Only we have 16,000 hectares. I think we have seen in the first slide. So they are using only 8% of the total surface area, mostly white varietal. I told you, made by Riesling, Pinot Gris, Muscat, and Gewürztraminer. So you can see the label. The label says Alsace Grand Cru, Appellation Alsace Grand Cru Contrôlé. One of the very important, appellation Grand Cru Contrôlé, white Alsace wine, made by Gewürztraminer grape. So Gewürztraminer is a single varietal grape. They made by single varietal. Same if it's made by Riesling, they will mention the Riesling name. If it's Pinot Gris, they will mention Pinot Gris. If it's Muscat, they will mention Muscat. So these are the white varietal grapes used to make Alsace Grand Cru AOC. The third one is Cremant Alsace AOC. The Cremant Alsace AOC is it's a sparkling wine producing since 1976. 18% production of total wine production of Alsace. We have seen 78 production is Alsace AOC, and 7 production, 4 production, 4 production is Alsace Grand Cru AOC, and 18% is Cremant Alsace AOC. This is, I hope you have studied, we have studied the method champagnage, the traditional method of making, champagne. This Alsace Cremant wine also made by traditional method of champagne, but the grapes are different. The grapes are different, and the region is different. It's not like a champagne. It's made from Alsace, but they are following the same method. I hope you remember. We have studied about wines of Loire Valley. We have seen the Saumur AOC. Saumur AOC is also made by traditional method of champagne, which is the best sparkling comes from Loire Valley. So when you talk about the France sparkling wines, the topmost, the home for a sparkling wine, Champagne. Second one is Alsace. Third one is Loire Valley. The 3 regions producing good sparkling wines from France. So when you talk about Cremant Alsace is a sparkling wine, comes from the Alsace, made by traditional method of champagne. How exactly champagne is made? They're following the same method, but it's very inexpensive than champagne because it's not it's not use the same grapes, or it's not produced in the Champagne region. So they are using Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Riesling, Chardonnay. These are the wines they are using for making Cremant Alsace, and it can be produced either brut or rosé. Brut is the dry sparkling wine, which is a white sparkling wine, and rosé is the rosé. So we know that most of the sparkling wines are the brut sparkling wines. Okay, the brut means dry. It's a if you talk about champagne, if you talk about any other sparkling wines, the 90% of the sparkling wines are the brut sparkling wines in the world. It shows dryness, and it is the most common selling sparkling wines. Sugar level is brut, it's dry. So of course they are making rose Cremant Alsace also. Cremant also produce rose, but I don't think so. We get in Hyderabad, or we get in India. Of course we'll get in India, maybe in Delhi somewhere we'll get, but it's very rare to get in other places because it's a mostly sold. It is mostly sold in French domestic area, because champagne is very expensive. This is one of the alternate for champagne. Those who can't afford for this champagne, they can go for Cremant Alsace. Also they can go for Saumur AOC. The Saumur AOC comes from it comes from the region of Loire Valley, and the Cremant Alsace AOC comes from the region of Alsace. And Saumur is made from Chenin Blanc, no doubt at all. And Cremant Alsace made from Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Riesling, Chardonnay. These are the 4 grapes where are the authorized grapes. You can make sparkling wine. So This is the label of the sparkling wine. You can see it's a Cremant the Alsace, but don't forget the word called appellation the origin control. The AOS is very very important. Okay, and brute. It's a very brute. So this is the Alsace, uh, wines. What we have studied about last half an hour. So basically, we have started the wines of France, and we have seen the wine appellations, we have seen the wine laws, and we have seen the European Union wine categories like AOC, BDQS, Van de Pay, and we have seen for Italy also. We have studied about Germany also. We studied about Spain also, and of course we started the regions of France. The France we studied about 13 wine producing regions very famous in France, and we started with Bordeaux and with Burgundy. We studied about Champagne. We studied about Rhone Valley. We studied about Loire Valley. Today we studied about Alsace. So overall we have come to a conclusion of wines of France. So last 1 week, I hope you are studying these wines of France. I hope you understand how the France is one of the most important wine country in the world, which offers the great quality wines, and it gives a lot of uh, you know uh, rich wines, best premium quality wines to the entire world. India, we get a lot of French wines, and the entire world they're exporting a lot of wines. So I want to okay, this is the I'm just we are closing this one. So before we go to wines of Italy, because next we are going to start about wines of Italy, then we'll study about wines of Spain, then we'll slowly we'll move to new world wine countries, because new world wine countries also we have to study about wines of America, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, South Africa, and of course India. So before that I want to show a small video, about before we go into wines of Italy. I want to show a small video about wines of Alsace. So it's a 10 minutes clippings video clip.
The dawn breaks in northeastern France. Here, between the Rhine River and the Vosges Mountains, lies the sunniest region in the country. A patchwork of scenic towns, lolling hills, and ancient vineyards, which produce some of the finest white wines in the world. Caught between Latin and Germanic civilizations for more than 2,000 years, the journey through here is like a walk back through history. This is Alsace. Hi, I'm Michael Fagan. In this episode, we're going to travel over the Vosges Mountains and into the valleys of Alsace to learn about the wonderful white wines of the area, an area that continues to attract wine enthusiasts from around the world. The term gastronomy, the art of food and drink, was first used here in Alsace, and it has developed to such a degree that today there are more Michelin star-rated restaurants here than anywhere else in France.
After the Royal Bridge comes the Auvergne Bridge.
Here, one begins to appreciate the Franco-Germanic influences in the people and the architecture. Although the region has been occupied as a German province 3 times in the last 200 years, the soul of Alsace is French. Just west of Strasbourg lies the famous Route du Vin. Originally mapped and planted by the Romans over 2,000 years ago to take advantage of ideal growing conditions.
Au fond des petits bistrots, y a des mectons qui jouent de l'accordéon. Ça sent la frite jusque dans la morue.
The people of Alsace see themselves as distinct, which is reflected in the gastronomy that is an integral part of their day-to-day life. Only the freshest produce and finest ingredients will do. Even in the smallest village, wine and food vendors from traveling markets cater to a discriminating and educated public.
On trouve pas trop du pinot noir, hein?
Non. Non, il y en a. Il y a du pinot noir.
Le pinot
Oui,
noir,
le pinot
c'est
noir,
plus
ouais.
tard comme rosé,
Oui,
ou pour les
oui.
créments.
Oui, pour le crément également, oui.
Here, people are very knowledgeable, always willing to talk about their favorite subject, wine. The wines of this region share particular qualities of freshness, purity, and fruitiness. These wines are sometimes called the white wines for those who love reds. Rich, complex, enticing. With its long dry seasons and varied soil, Alsace offers up 7 distinct wines named for those grapes. Pinot Blanc, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Noir, Riesling, Tokaj Pinot Gris, Sylvaner, and Muscat.
In most wine-producing areas of France, the wines are labeled geographically, and many are made by blending various grape varieties. However, in Alsace, the wines are clearly labeled by the single grape variety from which they were made. But in the early 90s, the Hugel family revived an old traditional style of wine, a blended wine they call Gentil.
By the Middle Ages, the Alsatian industry was in full bloom, shipping wines as far off as Denmark and England. And today, many of the wineries are family-run and have existed for at least 3 centuries. Here, in the antique town of Riquir, the Hugel winery has been producing since the 17th century. Etienne Hugel is a 12th generation member of this long-established family winery.
And this is actually one of our oldest cellars. This was built in
Hugel makes wines from all 7
Here we
varietals,
find ourselves in one of the oldest
but we
cellars.
came here to learn about the blend, Gentil.
Voilà, now we're coming to the famous Sainte Catherine cask. You can see she's beautifully, richly decorated.
The Hugel winery has the world's oldest oak cask still in use. Dating back to 1715, it's been in the family since the French Revolution.
So you're still using this today?
Absolutely. Actually, it's full of, by coincidence, Gentil.
Tell me a little bit about Gentil.
So Gentil is actually an old name that was used until the 1920s that meant blend of noble grapes. And then this tradition of blending grapes slowly disappeared in Alsace, and we had the idea in 1992 to revive that concept of top quality blends. So we came back with the name Gentil and more or less the old recipe. So it's really a return to tradition.
The area's historical links to Germany are reflected here in the wines. Each region uses the distinctive Rhine-shaped bottle and cultivates some of the same grape varieties. But the wines of Alsace are unique.
Our wines are dry wines, aromatic, full of flavor, but dry, so wines to match with food. So obviously a very different style from most German wines, which are made in the sweeter style, which may be better, more enjoyable outside a meal. So first and foremost, Alsace is French, despite our history.
The historic town of Riquir seems to have remained unchanged from the Franco-German wars that have ravaged the countryside over the last few centuries. It remains a popular tourist attraction as much for its spectacular views as for its wines. Down the street in Riquier is the home of another of Alsace's premier producers. In the 1940s, two families, Dopf and Irion, merged their common interest and became a force in the wine industry.
Come on, Michael, I've got something very special to
In the cellar of Chateau Riquier, export manager Pascal Chile showed us one of the company's historic vintages.
Riesling, the vintage 1945.
Wow, and me without a corkscrew.
Among other varietals, Dopf and Irion make a wonderful Sylvaner. Light and dry, it's a simple wine that matches well with fish and salads. The grape is relatively easy to produce, which in turn makes the wine affordable. And there are some differences in how one drinks a Sylvaner as opposed to the other wines produced in Alsace.
To really enjoy a Sylvaner, you need to drink it within one year. It's definitely not the type of wine to lay down and which will be even better after a few years. Either you're just taking it by itself or just sharing a glass of white wines with friends, and it's a great introduction to Alsace wines.
Oh, look at this beautiful view here.
This is fantastic.
And here you've got this wonderful Grand Cru, which is called Schönenbourg. Best Riesling of the world are coming from this side, you see.
In the world of French vintage wines, the term Grand Cru is the name given to the most celebrated vineyards. When all the variables come together perfectly, these vineyards produce spectacular results. Each of the 50 designated Grand Cru sites in the Alsace region is renowned for producing wine of the very highest quality.
Now that's really quite steep. Does everything have to be done by hand?
Yeah, everything is picked by hand, of course.
This is the Rangen Vineyard. It's one of the steepest and hardest to work vineyards in all of Alsace. There was a trend in the 1960s and 70s to move away from these areas to the lowlands, which are easier to work. But it's from these Grand Cru vineyards that you get the best fruit. Fruit that in the hands of the right winemaker produce the best wines in the region.
But one has to wonder why. Why does the hardest landscape to work produce the finest fruit?
Late 70s and early 80s.
At the Zind Humbrecht winery, we consulted an expert. Olivier Humbrecht, the winemaker here, uses biodynamics, an organic method of cultivation.
What's the advantage of such a steep slope?
Well, you expose more, less surface of soil to the sun, so automatically the soil is able to absorb much more sun energy, warms up much quicker, and helps the grapes to ripen also. The color of the soil is very dark, mostly made of small rocks, and those also take the energy of the sun during the day and release them slowly during the night, which helps to keep a much warmer microclimate around the vine.
We also came here to learn about was the legendary Gewürztraminer grape of Alsace. Here, with the right soil compositions and appropriate sunshine, this difficult grape can approach perfection.
Gewürztraminer is a tricky grape. Gewürztraminer is good when it's ripe, when you have lots of flavor and a ripe acidity. And you choose a climate which is not too hot. You choose a cool climate, but with sometimes a little peak of heat, like in September, just to finish off the ripening of the Gewürztraminer.
This is really something.
This is our cellar with all the...
With Olivier's organic approach in the field, the fermentation process is left to nature to take its course.
2001 vintage. It was racked about